Part 30. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 291. This poison is invisible and tasteless. There is no medicine to cure it, and no one can cure it. Those who are poisoned will have their martial arts skills disappear quickly, and then their bodies will explode and die. Su Shenbing looked guilty and continued, the surviving person, in order to help me seal the 9 yin huagong powder in my body, he did not hesitate to give me all the true energy in order to completely suppress the toxins. But Juyin huagong powder can be ranked in the top 3 among the strange poisons in the world. Naturally, its reputation is not in vain. Su Shenbing said, even if I am enlightened and have half a step into the divine sect, I still cannot suppress the toxins in my body. Seeing that my true energy was passing away bit by bit, in less than 24 hours, I would have exhausted all my true energy and exploded and died. Your mother couldn't bear it, so she came up with a way. Su Shenbing continued, your mother is the daughter of the Lord of Mount Tai. She has been highly valued since she was a child and has eaten almost all kinds of good things that are conducive to spiritual practice. When she was young, she ate the gallbladder of a mutated giant snake, and her physique was greatly changed. As a result, she was extremely talented in martial arts. Not only that, she also found that she had a physique that was invulnerable to all poisons. Su Shenbing continued, in order to save me, she introduced all the toxins in Juyin huagong powder into her body, hoping to fight against Juyin huagong powder by herself. But, this poison is so strange. Although Yuyin's physique is different, she cannot suppress it. The true energy gradually disappears, and eventually she disappears from everyone and becomes an ordinary girl. But fortunately, she did not explode. If I die, I will only lose my true energy, otherwise I will feel guilty for the rest of my life. As for me, my body was previously destroyed by Juyin huagong powder, which has left hidden dangers. Although the toxins have been sucked out of the body, my strength is not the same. I was half a step into the Shenzone realm, but quickly fell into Huajin. Su Shenbing sighed and said, the final result is that the powerful member of the Su family completely lost his true energy due to the enlightenment and became an ordinary person. In order to save me, Yuyin also got entangled with Juyin huagong powder and lost everyone. It's just me, with only a trace of strength left, at the peak of my strength, at the peak of my strength. Su Shenbing said with a sense of disappointment, 3 months ago, I was surprised that I was still a top talent in the 100 sex Huivua, but now I am at the peak of my strength. The huge gap caused my mentality to explode. During that time, it was your mother comforting me. It is worth mentioning that Yuyin lost her martial arts and became an ordinary person. Instead of feeling sad, she seemed to be relieved. Her whole person became different and she had more smiles on her face. I didn't understand this very much. After asking, I found out that she was tired. Su Shenbing continued, since birth, Yuyan has been like a machine, practicing under Shi Hehan's teachings, day after day, year after year. But this is not what she wants. She doesn't want to inherit the position of the Lord of Mount Tai, and she doesn't want to practice so hard. She also wants to spend her life relaxed and happy like an ordinary woman. But Shi Hehan told her that she had a heavy burden on her shoulders and was responsible for the future of the entire Fengchan land. She could only grit her teeth and persevere. Over time, she became exhausted physically and mentally. Su Shenbing continued, now that she has become an ordinary person, she is suddenly relieved, and the burden on her body has disappeared without a trace. In the days that followed, your mother and I's relationship grew rapidly. We got married, had children, and had a lot of fun. Su Shenbing fell into this memory, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, he was really happy. Dad? Su Yang asked with a worried look on his face. The old poisonous man deep in the clouds escaped. Didn't he come back to cause trouble again? Or did he not spread the news to the ancient martial arts world that the Jiangbei Su family was the Kunlun Su family? He doesn't dare. Su Shenbing came back to his senses and said coldly, he doesn't know that the surviving members of the Su family have exhausted all their energy in order to save me. In the eyes of the old poisonous man, our Su family member is still at his peak. When the 100 sex martial arts competition began, the reason why the major sects didn't dare to take action against me was because they were afraid of her. Because, as long as she gets angry and unleashes all her strength, she can kill at least one of the 3 top forces in the ancient martial arts world, such as the place of Zen, between mountains and seas, and deep in the clouds and mists. Su Shenbing continued, but with her power, she can only kill one. If the 3 major forces join forces, they can still be wiped out. However, no one from the major sects dares to be the first person, for fear of angering her and bringing disaster to their own family. When the old poisoner escaped that day, the survivor of the Su family let it go and warned him not to set foot in the Su family again and not to leak the news. Otherwise, she would try her best to sublime, even if she dies, she will be destroyed in the depths of the clouds. Su Shenbing continued, so, the old poisonous creature ran away in embarrassment and did not dare to say a word to the outside world. So that's it? Su Yang understood, nodded, and said, the surviving master in our family is equivalent to a nuclear bomb. No one wants to detonate her, lest the fish or the net be destroyed. Su Shenbing nodded lightly, and then blamed himself, what a pity, she has lost her true energy, and your mother has become an ordinary person because of me. Sometimes I wonder, if I had not participated in the 100 sex martial arts competition, that would be great, then they wouldn't be like this, it's all my fault for being young and energetic, and insisting on being in the limelight, oh, blame me. Dad, don't blame yourself. Su Yang comforted, no one wants this. Besides, you won the first place in the 100 sex martial arts competition, shocked the ancient martial arts world, and killed several young masters. You can recover some interest for the Kunlun Su family. Also, losing martial arts is not necessarily a bad thing for my mother. She is very satisfied with her future life, isn't she? Su Yang smiled and said, besides, if you didn't go to the Beizong martial arts competition, how would you know my mother? Makes sense. Su Shenbing nodded, and then warned seriously, Su Yang, although you are still relatively useless now, remember not to expose your true strength at any time, and don't be impulsive. It's not a good idea to be too pushy. It's a good thing, pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger is the truth. Your father has learned a bloody lesson. These are all lessons learned from experience. You must learn from them. Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and warned, did you hear that? My immortal brother, who has been practicing for 100,000 years, relied on Go for the first half of his life, so you still need to teach me. Su Yang smiled, then curled his lips and said, ah, Dad, this is so boring. I became stronger just to show off my power. Fart. Su Shenbing said seriously, those are all false and of no use. If one day you become stronger, you must keep a low profile and don't tell others. This way you can catch them by surprise. Did you hear me? Not even telling you and Grandpa, Su Yang couldn't help but ask. Fuck. Hearing this, Su Shenbing immediately said seriously, Su Yang, if you can really do this, I will give you a thumbs up, which means that you have truly learned to be forbearing and are more sinister than you and me, no, compared to you and me. Much smarter. Ahem, Dad, don't be angry then, Su Yang smiled. No, it's too late for me to be happy, Su Shenbing said with a smile. Yes, I took note of it. Su Yang showed a smile, and then said, Dad, let me see if there is any possibility of recovery in your body. I have been practicing medical skills with Hua Shi Miao Hua in school for a few days. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 292. Su Shenbing said with a dark face, "You are kidding me. Everyone in the world knows about the dispersion of Julian's transformation power. Not to mention you, a dabbler like you, even the sage Dr. Zhang Hongyu and Zhang Zhang from Kyoto must be unable to do anything." I was unwilling at first. After all, I am the only descendant of the Kunlun Su family. Hundreds of lives in the Su family were wiped out by the ancient martial arts section. I must avenge them and let those ancient martial arts sects pay back 100 times. Su Shenbing continued, "So, I went everywhere to seek medical consultation, but no matter how famous the doctors were, they all refused to diagnose and treat me when they heard about Julian Huagong powder. At that time, there were wars and wars on the border. Your grandfather asked me to join the army. I thought that maybe I could find a chance in the killing, so I agreed." Su Shenbing continued, "In those few years, I killed all directions on the battlefield, with a strong sword and an iron horse, and I was as angry as a tiger for thousands of miles. It really worked at first. My strength returned to the early stage of Earth section slowly. I reached the late stage of Earth sect and reached the peak of Earth section." Su Shenbing continued, "Country regulations stipulate that ancient warriors above the level of Grand Master are not allowed to participate in national wars. Therefore, after returning to the peak of Earth sect, I will no longer kill enemies with my own hands. Instead, I will sit in the tent, dispatch troops and generals, and strategize. Win a decisive victory thousands of miles away, and achieve the name of Sushui. Furthermore, there is another reason. After reaching the peak of Earth sect, I found that my body was in trouble again. Not only could I no longer improve, but my strength began to regress again." Su Shenbing smiled bitterly and said, "Just a few months later, I returned to the peak of Huajin again, and then stabilized in the late stage of Huajin. In addition, the big shots in Kyoto felt that my achievements were too great and they gradually suppressed and reduced my power, so I chose to go into seclusion." Su Shenbing shook his head and said, "So, Su Yang, it's useless for you to look at my body. Let's try, maybe I can cure it." Su Yang smiled, his eyes fell on Su Shenbing's body, and he looked at it carefully. Previously, he checked his father's body more than once, but found no abnormalities in his body. But this time, Su Yang concentrated on it and finally made a new discovery. "This poison has penetrated deep into the bone marrow. No wonder I didn't notice it before." Su Yang secretly thought, "I must have been unable to absorb all the Julian Huagong powder before. This trace of toxin that penetrated deep into the bone marrow always remained in Dad's body. Fortunately, the toxin is very small, otherwise Dad would definitely die." Dad said that he had recovered to the peak of the Earth section. It is estimated that the huge chi at the peak of the Earth sect stimulated the toxins in his bone marrow, which caused his realm to fall again and he could not improve for the rest of his life. Su Shenbing gritted his teeth and continued, "Especially the old poison in the depths of the clouds, personally leading the team, how abominable. In addition, there is another force, and that is the Ximen family of Bihai. By the way, Su Yang, you know about the sworn relationship between your grandfather and Su Xiantian. Your grandfather felt that Su Xiantian was a young grandmaster with a bright future, so he shamelessly closed the relationship and did not hesitate to lower his face and swore the sworn brother. Revenge. But your grandfather has been waiting for more than 100 years, but he didn't wait. He thought that the old sect master was lying to him, and he was already frustrated. But he didn't expect that Su Xiantian really appeared in Jiangbei recently. Your grandfather was naturally excited. In order to bring him, Su Xiantian pulled him into the Su family's camp and did not hesitate to choose to become a sworn brother with Su Xiantian. Back then, the head of the Ximen family, Ximen Yulu, was the most ruthless, and his hands were stained with the blood of the ancestors of the Su family." Su Yang paused and suddenly thought of this question, nodded and asked doubtfully, "Yes, Dad, why is this unreasonable?" Su Shenbing did not hide anything and said truthfully, I asked your grandfather in private, and he told me that the old master of the Tianji sect once told him that in the future he would meet a man named Su Xiantian, who was a member of the Su family. Hope rises out of ruin. As a descendant of the Su family, I must avenge the tragic deaths of those in the Su family. Su Yang realized that he really had a doubt in his heart, so he asked, where are the forces that destroyed the Kunlun Su family back then? Is the place of Zen among them? Speaking of this, it is worth mentioning that the Tianji sect of Wudan Mountain was not involved. Even when your grandfather was able to escape, it was because of the secret guidance of the old master of the Tianji section. Su Shenbing sighed, then mentioned the place of Zen, and said, as for Mount Tai, I didn't get involved. After all, Mount Tai is a famous and upright sect, the most famous mountain in the world. Tianjimen, divination of secrets? The old master? Well. Su Shenbing gritted his teeth and said, even after the Ximen family occupied the Magpie's Nest and destroyed the Su family, they replaced it and moved into Kunlun Mountain. This poison is nothing in my hands. It can be easily erased using spiritual energy. However, my father's strength surpasses that of Tianzong, but it can no longer be restored. Su Yang smiled and said to himself, it's just right. It can't be broken or established. It can make Dad give up the ancient martial arts system and change to cultivation. Su Shenbing asked with a smile, but after listening to the story I told you today, don't you think it's strange that a martial arts master in his 20s is actually nothing, so why is your grandfather rushing to make friends with him? Su Shenbing continued, I don't know what the old sect master of Tianji sect is planning. He has always been showing goodwill to our Su family, but he just doesn't dare to be an enemy of the major sects openly. At least 90% of the major sects in the ancient martial arts world participated in the siege that year. The surviving member of our Su family, if he didn't want to protect my growth, he would have entered Kunlun long ago. This world is becoming more and more interesting. Su Shenbing smiled and said, facts have proved that the old sect master is not wrong. Su Xiantian is not at the master level at all. He can kill Duan Sihai, who is in the late stage of the Earth sect, and even obliterate the Tianzong level. His methods are extremely terrifying. In addition, the master of the Medicine King Palace has with his identity and perhaps his sworn relationship, he can really lead the Su family back to its peak and rebuild its glory. The Ximen family is the strongest family in the ancient martial arts world. Dad. After making up his mind, Su Yang breathed a sigh of relief and decided to help his father enter the ranks of cultivation after refining the bone elixir and curing his father's injuries. After listening to his father's story, Su Yang became involved in it, and felt very angry. This was the hatred in his blood. What is the origin of this person? He actually calculated what happened more than 100 years later. Although my father's talent is not as good as that of Wang Fugui, who has the taily sword body, it is not bad. If there are enough energy stones, he will definitely be able to practice very quickly. Hee. It's a pity that she has become an ordinary person now and can't do anything. Tianjimen. Okay, stop thinking about my body. There's nothing you can do about it? What did you say just now? Do you have any doubts now? Su Shenbing said with a calm smile. Su Yang frowned slightly when he heard this. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 293. According to what Dad said, the old master of the Tianji sect can predict that a man named Su Xiantian will appear in more than 100 years. This kind of ability is simply unbelievable. Even in the Xiantian immortal realm, very few people can achieve it. There are too many factors that affect the deduction of secrets. Some magic techniques claim to be able to see the future, but they are basically gimmicks. The future is not fixed, and some small things that happen now may change the big things that will happen in the future. This is the so-called butterfly effect. The old master of Tianji sect, who accurately judged that Su Xiantian would appear in the future, must have some skills. Wudan Mountain, Tianji sect, you must pay a visit if you have the chance to see who the old sect leader is. Su Yang secretly thought, the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Now, the doubts in his heart have almost disappeared, and he has locked onto his enemy. The old poison deep in the clouds, the Ximen Jade Tower of the Ximen family. Although there are many sects besieging the Kunlun Su family, these two forces are the most prominent. Especially old poison. According to what Dad said, this person's hands are stained with the blood of the ancestors of the Su family. Moreover, more than 20 years ago, the old poison was poisoned in Dad's body. Not only did Dad become a useless person, but even Mom and the foundation of the Su family were affected. This person must die. Deep in the clouds, the price must be paid. As for the Ximen family, haha, the dove occupied the magpie's nest, occupied the Su family's territory in Kunlun, and killed many ancestors of the Su family, so they should not be spared lightly. Certainly. Except for these two families, Su Yang would not let go of any sect that participated in the siege of the Kunlun Su family. This account will be settled slowly. There is also the place of Zen. Although this force did not participate in the destruction of the Kunlun Su family, it kept my mother under house arrest for many years. Su Yang decided to be polite before fighting, won the first place in the martial arts competition of hundreds of sects, and went to the place of Zen to take his mother away. If the master of Mount Tai disagrees and insists on blocking it, Su Yang will not be polite anymore. Su Yang, what are you thinking about? At this time, Su Shenbing saw that Su Yang was absent-minded and asked. Su Yang came back to his senses and said casually, Dad, you participated in the 100 Sects martial arts competition back then, and you were so awesome. I was wondering if I should also participate and re-walk the path you walked. You. Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and couldn't help but said, Son, don't blame me for attacking you. With your strength, you will probably be eliminated in the first round of the 100 Sects competition. Do I stretch my crotch that much? Su Yang touched his nose and smiled bitterly. Su Yang, you little brat, you think I can't beat you while I'm lying on a stretcher, right? How dare you take advantage of me? Su Shenbing paused, looked at Su Yang with dull eyes, and then cursed loudly, you are a dir. It's a pity that Uncle Xiantian is the master of the Medicine King Palace and is not from our Su family. Are you Su Xiantian? Su Shenbing shook his head slightly, then looked at Su Yang and said, Su Yang, stop thinking about it. You are too weak, so don't embarrass yourself. Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and said seriously, did you hear that? You bastard, don't joke about this next time, otherwise your grandpa and I will break your legs, Su Shenbing said viciously. However, I can be certain that what your great-grandfather Suwaji cultivates must be related to ancient qi training. He is most likely a qi practitioner, or a cultivator. Su Yang suddenly felt dizzy. He was just testing his father's tone, but he didn't expect his father's reaction to be so strong. Therefore, he did not teach your grandfather what he cultivated. He wanted your grandfather to have a safe life and not to get involved. Dad, your guess should be correct. He doesn't know where the end of this road is, but it must be full of unknowns. Otherwise, it would be impossible for all those who came before us to disappear. You just need to remember that you have unavenged revenge and don't bring too much change to your current life. Su Yang smiled softly, then suddenly thought of a question, and asked, Dad, what kind of martial arts did my great-grandfather Suwazi practice back then? How could he be so powerful that he could suppress an entire era by himself? I don't know how to answer this question. Su Shenbing nodded, and then warned, I have told you everything that needs to be said, Su Yang, maybe you feel very angry now and hate the old poison, the Ximen family, and all the major sects, but you must remember, don't show it. Yes, Dad, don't worry, I'm in a good mood. Okay, okay, no more joking. Hearing this question, Su Shenbing stared at Su Yang and said seriously, yes, your great-grandfather, he, came back before. Su Shenbing sighed and said, I once asked your grandfather the same question. Su Yang met his father's gaze and couldn't help but ask, Dad, do you think there is a possibility that I am Su Xiantian? Su Shenbing said sternly, the major sects also thought so, so more than 100 years ago, after your great-grandfather Su Wuji disappeared mysteriously, the major sects gathered in Kunlun Mountain to encircle and suppress the Su family. Their purpose was to find the training method of the ancient qi refiners. Su Shenbing warned, now, what you have to do is to lie dormant, hide your hatred in your heart, don't tell anyone, and at the same time, don't be angry, depressed, or angry yourself. Su Shenbing looked at Su Yang and continued, your grandfather answered me the same way, and I will answer you the same way now. You are too weak now. You are like an ant in their eyes. You have to hide your emotions. If one day you gain power, maybe you become stronger and use thunderous means to seek revenge on them without giving them any reaction. Chance. Su Shenbing said angrily, what the hell, if you are Su Xiantian, then what should I call you? Call you uncle? Is your grandfather your sworn brother? Speaking of this, Su Shenbing smiled and said, with Uncle Suanation's strength, he can kill the early Tianzong. As long as there are no accidents and he performs at a normal level, he will most likely come out on top. That's pretty much it? Su Yang nodded, and then asked curiously, where did the great-grandfather go? More than 100 years have passed. During this period, has he never come back? Su Shenbing continued, your great-grandfather didn't answer. He just said that he was following his predecessors and walking on an ancient road that had disappeared for more than 2,000 years. Before there is absolutely strong strength, all anger, depression, and anger are signs of incompetence and have no meaning. If Uncle Xiantian participates in the 100 Sects martial arts competition, there will be no problem. Can you be more confident? You have it. You really stretch your hips like that, Su Shenbing said seriously. Some time ago, you used the Li family's magic elixir to get started in martial arts. Now you are in the late stage of the martial arts competition. The minimum entry standard is Earth Sect, you are too far behind. And your grandfather also asked your great-great-grandfather the exact same question. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 294. Been back. Su Yang immediately cheered up, looked at his father expectantly, and asked, did Grandpa say anything? Didn't he seek revenge from the major sects? Don't be anxious, listen to me slowly. Su Shenbing fell into memories, and then said, what I am going to say next is what your grandfather told me. About 30 years after the Kunlun Su family was exterminated, your grandfather was over 50 years old at that time. He had not yet found a wife and was participating in a battle. Su Shenbing continued, at that time, your grandfather was already a master of the Earth Sect, but there was no consensus among the countries. In those days, the masters of the Earth Sect could take action at will. It's just that all the major sects in the ancient martial arts world have closed their doors and secluded themselves from the world. No one cares about the suffering of the people, and they allow other countries to bully the people of China. It's okay not to mention these things. Su Shenbing continued, speaking of your grandfather, at the Earth Sect level, he shined on the battlefield and was almost unstoppable. However, there are also masters of this level in the enemy camp. They both appeared at the same time. Your grandfather was defeated and was seriously injured and dying. Our Su family's background was also present at that time, but that time, the general in charge of the enemy army was the enemy's country's top master for a century, and that man entangled the Su family's background. As for the other two Earth sect generals, they took the opportunity to step forward and plan to kill your grandfather Sukyankan. At this point, Su Shenbing changed his tone and said seriously, "At this moment, your great-grandfather, Su Wuji, is here. His strength is still strong. He didn't even take action. He just used his aura to crush everyone present. Hundreds of thousands of enemy troops have all lost their ability to fight." The enemy general who was entangled with the surviving masters of the Su family immediately fell to the ground. Su Wuji is like a king, overlooking all living beings, and thousands of people worship him. Su Shenbing continued, "It's just that at that time, your great-grandfather seemed to be crazy. He just glanced at your grandfather and disappeared without saying anything." "Stupid," Su Yang frowned slightly when he heard this. "Well, that's right. This is what your grandfather told me. It shouldn't be wrong." Su Shenbing continued, "Not only is he stupid, your great-grandfather was very skinny at the time, with scars all over his body, and some of the wounds were even black. It seems to have been caused by lightning strikes, as if he had been inhumanely tortured." "What?" Su Yang asked doubtfully. "Dad, didn't you say that my great-grandfather can intimidate the entire ancient martial arts world by himself? No one is his opponent. He is the only one in heaven and on earth. Who can hurt him?" "I don't know. I don't know anything." "The same goes for your grandfather. He doesn't know anything." Su Shenbing shook his head and said, "Since then, your great-grandfather has never appeared again. 100 years have passed in the blink of an eye. He must have passed away. I guess your great-grandfather may have gone too far in his practice." Alas, a generation of great power came to a dismal end at the end of the sentence. Su Shenbing couldn't help but sigh. But Su Yang next to him was lost in thought. If great-great-grandfather Su Wuzi was a cultivator, then more than 100 years have passed and his longevity will definitely not be exhausted. As for being obsessed with practicing Qigong, the symptoms described by my father don't seem like it. The wound was charred black, suspected of being struck by lightning. Could it be that Grandpa had just survived a thunderstorm before he appeared for the last time? Su Wuji's name resounded throughout the ancient martial arts world, shocking an era. Who in the world could hurt him? If the so-called secrets of those sects in the ancient martial arts world could punish Su Wuzi, how could they allow Su Wuzi to break into his own sect and play with the sect's treasure? Presumably, Su Wuji has reached a certain level of strength that no one in the ancient martial arts world can reach. Then the injuries on Su Wuji's body were not caused by man-made things. Perhaps, he had really survived the thunder tribulation. The power of the Earth's laws is relatively weak, so you can fly in the air by building a foundation. Su Yang secretly said, "However, I have already felt that the Earth seems to have a mysterious power. It is precisely because of this power that the Earth's spiritual energy is exhausted, and there is very little spiritual energy in the air. Moreover, this power is everywhere, making it very difficult for cultivators to advance." Su Yang continued, "Triggering the thunder tribulation means at least cultivating to the realm of foundation building. I didn't expect that in the age of the end of the Dharma, my great-grandfather would actually set foot on foundation building with his own strength. His talent must be amazing." The lifespan of a cultivator in the foundation building realm is usually between 500 and 600 years old. Not surprisingly, my great-grandfather is still alive, but I don't know where he went. Su Yang was suddenly full of expectation. "I don't know what my great-grandfather has become now. I really want to see him. The earth belongs to the age of Dharma ending, and its spiritual energy is exhausted. Under such circumstances, it is simply unbelievable that an ordinary man would go against the will of heaven and set out to build a foundation." Su Yang, "Okay, let's call Xiaoting back. It's time to return to the manor." At this time, Su Shenbing spoke and reminded emphatically, "I complained about your grandfather being a waste. Don't let it slip, or I will never end it with you. Haha, don't worry, I'm very strict with my mouth. Su Yang smiled, then called Xiaoting, and the two of them carried Su Shenbing down the mountain. Hey, Xiaoting, your strength seems to have improved a bit. I see that the energy and blood in your body are like a rainbow. What realm have you reached? Is it possible that you have become a master? Suddenly, Su Shenbing asked. The realm of a master? Patriarch, I stopped practicing ancient martial arts a long time ago, and now my strength can crush the earth sect. Xiaoting thought in his heart, but did not say it on the surface, because he promised Su Yang to conceal his practice of Qingming's physical training. Then, Xiaoting smiled and said, Master, you have good eyesight. During this period, I suddenly became enlightened and am now at the master level. Su Shenbing was seriously injured, and his realm was degraded. Naturally, he could not see Xiaoting's true strength, so he nodded with satisfaction and said, Not bad, good, you boy, you did not disappoint me. By the way, where is Guoyi going? Yes, why haven't you seen him in the past 2 days? Guoyi, he. Xiaoting paused. He was also confused as to why Guoyi seemed to have suddenly disappeared. Guoyi has left Jiangbei at this time, Su Yang said lightly. Leave. When Xiaoting heard this, he suddenly wondered, now is the time for the Su family to hire people. He left Zhang at this time, young master, will Guoyi give up on the Su family and become a deserter? Su Yang smiled lightly and did not explain too much. Damn it, this Guoyi, I don't think of him as my brother. I didn't expect him to be this kind of person. He will fly by himself when disaster strikes. What a villain. Xiaoting said angrily, over the years, the head of the family has treated him well. He even personally rescued him from the rebel army back then, but he... Enough. Su Shenbing interrupted loudly, with complicated eyes, and finally sighed and said, Hey, let him go, I never force anyone to stay. Xiaoting, the same goes for you, you can leave whenever you want. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 295. Master. Xiaoting suddenly said with red eyes, I, Xiaoting, will live as a member of the Su family and die as a ghost of the Su family. I will never leave the Su family in this life. Good. Su Shenbing looked at Xiaoting, his face moved slightly, and then he closed his eyes with a sad expression, as if he was sad about Guoyi's departure. After all, Guoyi had been with him for many years. Who would have thought that he would just leave without even saying hello? Su Yang didn't explain. Immediately afterwards, Su Yang and Xiaoting carried Su Shenbing to the commercial vehicle, and then drove the commercial vehicle and left Yongning Cemetery. At this moment, Deep City, Du family. In the ancient martial arts world, there are not only powerful sects and sects, but also some forces that exist in the form of families, which also have huge influence in the ancient martial arts world. For example, the Du family in Shenzhen. Hundreds of years ago, the ancestors of the Du family gained a great reputation with one sword and one sword. They were one of the most powerful people of that era, thus establishing the Du family's position in the ancient martial arts world. There are 10 major families in the ancient martial arts world, and the Ximen family that currently occupies Kunlun ranks first. The Du family is ranked 6th, and its power can be compared with the first-class sects. At this moment, Du family manor, a secret room. A middle-aged man wearing brocade clothes, sitting cross-legged, holding the moon in his hands, was practicing, with true energy surging around his body. The middle-aged man has deep-set eye sockets and a nasolabial wrinkle on his forehead, giving him a fierce look. He is the current head of the Du family, Du Mingyuan, who is in the late Tianzong realm. But, although the late Tianzong is the standard for first-class forces, Not all first-class sects have the strongest people in the late Tian zone. A family as powerful as the Du family has an unfathomable background. Even though Du Mingyuan is the head of the family and has entered the late Tian zone period, it is still not the Du family's background. This is also the reason why the Du family can exist for hundreds of years and no one dares to mess with it. Come in. Suddenly, Du Mingyuan, who was practicing, noticed someone outside, opened his eyes and spoke coldly. Immediately afterwards, a subordinate pushed the door open and knelt on the ground respectfully. Master. Du Mingyuan nodded lightly, and then said in a deep voice, didn't I tell you not to disturb my practice? Give me a reason, otherwise the family will take care of you. Master, I don't want to disturb you, but something happened to Master Shixian, the servant said in fear. Xian'er. When Du Mingyuan heard this, he frowned and said, tell me slowly, what happened to Xian'er? Du Mingyuan is Shixian's biological uncle and has always had a good relationship with Shixian, so he naturally cares about Shixian. Master Shixian, he was killed and has been dead for several days, the servant responded. What? Du Mingyuan stood up suddenly, his face clouded, and asked in a deep voice, what's going on? Who killed him? My subordinates don't know the specific details. The news came from Taishan. The servant then asked, however, it seems that it has something to do with Jiangbei. Master Shixian knows that you like Shi Yuyan, and he has long wanted to get rid of the Jiangbei Su family for you. Du Mingyuan stabilized his emotions and said, I know about this. Xian'er has already been to Su's house some time ago. This Su family, according to my investigation, doesn't have much background. It's just that the old man of the Su family, Su Qianqian, has some fame, but it's nothing to be afraid of. Du Mingyuan continued, when I found Yuyan 5 years ago, I was also there. There are indeed no masters in the Su family. Yuyan's husband is just a waste in the realm of strength. When he mentioned Su Shenbing, Du Mingyuan gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred, and asked instead, what's going on with Xian'er? Do you think his death is related to the Su family? Yes. The servant said, young Master Shixian once went to the Su family in Jiangbei, but failed to return. He came to the Du family some time ago and said that he would go to the Su family in Jiangbei again. Master, if my subordinates guessed correctly, Master Shixian died in the Su family. Moreover, not only Master Shixian, but also Mrs. Hongjin, something happened, the servant said. Hongjin. Du Mingyuan said calmly, my sister is as strong as me and is not weak at all. What can happen to her? Mrs. Hongjin, is dead. Die. Du Mingyuan was furious, suddenly stared at the servant, and asked, what did you say? Say it again. Reporting to the master, Mrs. Hongjin is dead. The servant was lying on the ground, trembling all over. How could it be? Du Mingyuan asked, tell me, what happened? I don't know the specifics. The place of Fengchan claimed to the outside world that Mrs. Hongjin died of an accidental illness, no medicine or stone, and no cure. She passed away yesterday. Really, dead? Du Mingyuan had a complicated expression and said in a deep voice, go and inform Chu Fuxian that I want to go with him to see my sister for the last time. The body of the Hongjin woman has been burned. A letter was sent from the place of worship, stating that she did not want to make a fuss and refused to pay tribute to the Du family. The servant went on to say, moreover, Mr. Chu Fuxian, the master of Chu, is also dead. When Du Mingyuan heard this, he immediately fell silent. He had some vague guesses in his heart and murmured, it seems that the Fengchan land discovered the relationship between Hongjin and Chu Fuxian, and also discovered Xian'er's true identity. Okay, Shi Hehan, Shi Yunfei, I didn't expect you to be so decisive in killing. Du Mingyuan did not listen to the speculation of his servants, thinking that it was the place of Zen, and killed Shi Xian, Du Hongjin, and Chu Fuxian. Because he knew the relationship between Du Hongjin and Chu Fuxian, and also knew that Shi Xian was Chu Fuxian's illegitimate son. In his opinion, the fact that these three people were killed one after another must be the work of the master of Mount Tai. And Du Mingyuan knew that there were no experts in the Su family in Jiangbei, which was also an important basis for him to deny the speculations of his subordinates. The place of Zen, I will keep this account in mind for the time being. In time, I will pay it back 100 times. Du Mingyuan growled with cold eyes. The land of Fengchan is at its peak, and it is a time of great prosperity. Although the Du family is powerful, it still depends on who they are competing with. If compared with the place of Fengchan, the Du family would appear weak and pitiful. Du Mingyuan knew this very well, so he didn't dare to act rashly, let alone seek revenge in the place of Fengchan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 296. Jiangbei Su family. Snored. Not daring to offend Feng Chan, Du Mingyuan placed his hatred on the Su family in Jiangbei and said coldly, back then, Yuyan was so talented and beautiful. She was a fairy in the hearts of many people. I also admired her very much. But who would have known that she was deceived by the remnants of Kunlun and left Mount Tai, and all her skills were gone. In the end, she took advantage of the small families in the city. When Su Shenbing participated in the 100 sex martial arts competition, he wore a silver mask and did not use his real name. Therefore, no one knew what he looked like, and no one knew that his name was Su Shenbing. They only knew that the remnant of the Kunlun Su family took the top spot. 5 years ago, Shi Yuyan, who had exhausted all his power, was found in the Su family in the north of Jiangbei. No one doubted that the Su Shenbing of the Su family was the remnant of Kunlun who used force to suppress all the geniuses of the 100 sects. After all, at that time, Su Shenbing had been hit by Juyan Huagong powder, and he could only reach the realm of Huajin, and there were no decent masters in the Su family in Jiangbei. Combining all these factors, everyone present believed that it was the remnants of Kunlun that caused Shi Yuyan to lose her power. Then Shi Yuyan became an ordinary person, wandering in the city, and ended up marrying into the Su family in Jiangbei, becoming a wife who turned into a garbage person, and gave birth to 2 children. In Du Mingyuan's view, this was the same as a fairy descending to earth but being humiliated by a beggar. He wanted to destroy the Su family on the spot, but Shi Huan did not stop him. However, Shi Yuyan protected Su Shenbing. Even when Shi Huan decided to kill Su Shenbing, Shi Yuyan threatened to die. Due to helplessness, the matter ended without any problem, and Shi Huan took Shi Yuyan away. Du Mingyuan was also warned not to take action against the Su family again. This was said by Shi Huan, mainly to appease Shi Yuyan's emotions. Therefore, in the past 5 years, Du Mingyuan has never set foot in the north of the Yangtze River, nor has he sent his men there, for fear of bringing trouble to the Du family, and for fear of actually forcing Shi Yuyan to death, which would make him feel guilty for the rest of his life. Du Mingyuan liked Shi Yuyan and once pursued her in public, which made everyone known, but Shi Yuyan refused mercilessly. But Du Mingyuan did not give up. He originally wanted to achieve results in the 100 sex competition and prove himself to the woman he loved, but unfortunately he was defeated by Su Shenbing wearing a silver mask. He was extremely embarrassed. In the 17 years since Shi Yuyan disappeared, he had never married. Apart from practicing, he was looking for Shi Yuyan. 5 years ago, it was Du Mingyuan who discovered some clues, and Shi Yuyan was found in the Fengchan land. In the past 5 years, Du Mingyuan did not mind that Shi Yuyan had given birth, and often went to the Zen place to meet Shi Yuyan for various reasons. However, Shi Yuyan refused due to physical discomfort. Du Mingyuan refused to give up. He firmly believed that sooner or later, he would be able to impress Shi Yuyan. This matter was found out by his nephew Shi Xian, who said that he would go to Jiangbei to cut off Aunt Yuyan's thoughts and completely destroy the Su family. Du Mingyuan ostensibly tried to persuade him, but in fact he expected Shi Xian to destroy the Su family, but he did not stop him. Perhaps, if the Jiangbei Su family disappears, Yuyan will change her mind, right? But now, Du Mingyuan was furious when he learned that his nephew was dead and his sister was dead. The Su family, I should have destroyed it back then. Now I have ignored Shi Huan's instructions, Su Shenbing, right? I didn't get Yuyan's body, but I let you be tainted by a piece of trash. Die, Su family everyone, let them all die. Du Mingyuan had a sullen face and said sternly, come here, inform the Iron Fist sect in Sixing Mountain and tell them that I agree to join forces with them to put pressure on Yaoang Palace to obtain training supplies. Most of the people from the Medicine King Palace are now at Evian Villa in the north of the Yangtze River. Let the master of the Iron Fist sect go there now. I will leave immediately. Du Mingyuan said coldly, while threatening Yaoang Palace, I will take the time to resolve some personal grievances. Su family manner. Su Yang and Xiaoting have already settled their father. At this time, in the room. Young master, Guo Yi really escaped, Xiaoting couldn't help but ask. No. Su Yang said calmly, I asked him to go out and practice. I hope he can achieve success. I see. When Xiaoting heard this, he smiled and said, I don't think Guo Yi will betray the Su family. Well, you go down first and take care of my dad. Su Yang waved his hand and said. You deliberately hid it? I couldn't detect your aura. I didn't notice it just now. I was just testing you, but you showed up on your own. Su Yang said truthfully. Zhang Hongai's figure appeared in the room and smiled softly, Palace Master, what kind of strength do you have that you can discover my whereabouts? Su Yang nodded and said, well, you go down, I want to make a phone call. Su Yang snorted coldly and said calmly, I believe you once, and I won't do the same next time. But I have never heard of what happened next. After the Su family in Kunlun was destroyed, Su Wuzi actually showed up and was injured. Calculating the time, Su Shanju and Wang Fugui should have arrived in Kyoto long ago. I wonder if they have finished their work, and why there is no news after several days. Thinking of this, Su Yang took out his mobile phone and dialed Wang Fugui's number. Of course I've heard of it. Okay, I will obey the palace master's arrangements. Zhang Hongai cupped his fists and bowed. These questions were all unknown. Su Yang did not continue the discussion, but asked, Zhang Hongai, where will this year's 100 sex martial arts competition be held and when will it start? Well, I understand. I will participate when the time comes. Zhang Hongai, you are quite old, have you ever heard of Su Wuji's name? Su Yang suddenly asked. That's it? The master of the palace is very smart, which is rare, Zhang Hongai said with a smile. I said before that I can't feel your breath. Now you can lie and tell me that you didn't follow me. Su Yang looked at Zhang Hongai and frowned, but why did you admit it? After he left, Su Yang said calmly to the air, Zhang Hongai, come out, I have something to ask you. Su Yang stared at Zhang Hongai and said coldly, you followed me all the way tonight. Did you hear everything my dad said? P.S. This is the 4th update, and more reminders will be completed when the 20th update is reached. Thanks to the Schwemming Guizun for the update, thank you. 14 days later, at the top of Mount Huangshan, Zhang Hongai answered without thinking. Thank you, Palace Master, Zhang Hongai said, cupping his fists. Next moment. After the 100 sex martial arts competition is over, I will let you refine the ancient elixir, how about it? Su Yang said the exchange conditions. Subordinate. Zhang Hongai looked ugly and hurriedly bent down and explained, This subordinate is just out of curiosity and asks the Lord to punish me. Su Yang nodded, and then urged, during this period, you should stay in Jiangbei and protect the Su family. I'm afraid of any accidents. Of course, I won't let your work go in vain. Xiaoting responded respectfully, then turned and left the room. My subordinates dare not lie to the palace master, Zhang's Hongao said with awe. Snored. At this moment, Su Yang was the only one left in the room. Yes. Zhang's Hongao accepted the order and disappeared instantly. He. Zhang's Hongao's old face was full of curiosity, who else in the world can hurt him? Yes. There's no need to say anything about flattery. Zhang's Hongao nodded and said, Su Wuji dominated an era, but he disappeared just as quickly as he rose. As the head of the Su family said, he disappeared inexplicably. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 297. Toot. The phone got through, but it rang for a long time and no one answered. Su Yang frowned slightly, but he didn't care much. After all, in the late Su Shanjushan sect, there must be no one in the city's family who could be his opponent. I guess I'm busy right now, so I don't have time to answer the phone. However, Su Shanja should be urged. After so many days, why haven't he brought back the medicinal materials? The work efficiency is too low. Thinking of this, Su Yang sent a text message to Su Shanju, probably urging him to get the medicinal materials and return to Jiangbei as soon as possible. After doing this, Su Yang thought of his sister Su Jingguo. He hadn't seen her for a while and didn't know how her sister was doing. Do you want to make a phone call? Su Yang thought about it, but what to say on the phone? If the elder sister knew what happened to the Su family, she would definitely come back. But now, my father and grandfather are seriously injured and lying on stretchers. My sister will definitely feel sad when she sees them. Moreover, the crisis of the Su family has not been completely resolved. If one day, the news that the Jiangbei Su family is the Kunlun Su family is leaked, the Su family will become the public enemy of the ancient martial arts world. Rather than letting her sister come back, it would be better to let her continue to be stationed at the border. It is safer than staying in the Su family. Thinking like this, Su Yang temporarily gave up the idea of contacting his sister. No matter how many things there are, let's set up a formation to protect the house first. In this way, if there is any danger, the manor can become the Su family's last protection. With this in his mind, Su Yang walked out of the room, called Xiaoting, and summoned 49 members of the Blood Massacre. The formation that Su Yang wants to set up is called the 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation, and it is very cost-effective. It only takes a very small amount of spiritual stones to exert a huge effect. 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation, the Yang formation is for defense and the Yin formation is for attack. The mature 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation, reverse the formation into a Yin formation, and any intruder will die. Certainly. Now that Su Yang's realm is relatively low and the spiritual stones he possesses are limited, he can only set up a small 9 Yin and 9 Yang array. But Su Yang estimated that even a person with half the level of Shenzone would not be able to break through the defense of the 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation. This formation is very troublesome to set up. It also needs to be combined with the terrain and architecture, and everything must complement each other. That's why Su Yang called Xiaoting and the 49 Blood Slaughter members to help. Around afternoon, all the preparations had been completed, and Su Yang began to arrange the 9 Yin and 9 Yang formations, and a stream of spiritual energy enveloped the Su family manor. Unconsciously, as night fell, Su Yang finally completed the 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation, and all the energy stones in the storage ring were consumed. At this moment, except for some slight changes in some small buildings outside, the Su family manor is not different. But as long as Su Yang operates the 9 Yin and 9 Yang formation, in an instant, there will be an invisible barrier that completely covers the manor. At that time, people inside can go out, but people outside can never come in. Moreover, unless the defense is broken, no one in the manor can be harmed. With my current strength, even if I turn on the blood sacrifice and use the key of the East Palace to strike with all my strength, I will definitely not be able to shake the 9 yin and 9 yang formation at all. And I should be able to kill the peak of Tianzone with one full blow. I estimate that even the masters of Shenzone will stop at the sight. Su Yang showed a smile, then his body ached. It's awesome, but it's so extravagant. I smashed all the energy stones I had saved so hard, hundreds of them. But Su Yang was just complaining. He was very satisfied with the 9 yin and 9 yang formation and didn't feel any loss at all. As for the energy stones, Zhang Honggao said that thousands of them could be collected, so Su Yang didn't need to be frugal. Young master, is this formation you arranged really that powerful? At this time, Xiaoting asked curiously. Su Yang nodded, then looked at Xiaoting, smiled softly and said, if someone breaks in the future, you will know how powerful the 9 yin and 9 yang formation is. As he spoke, Su Yang kneaded the formula with his fingers, inputting a ray of light into Xiaoting's mind, and then said, I have already sent you the method of activating the formation. If an enemy attacks, activate it directly. If nothing else happens, even if the half-step Shen sect comes, they will still shed blood and hate. Yes. Xiaoting was extremely excited and looked at Su Yang with eyes filled with respect. Su Yang nodded lightly and turned to look in the 1 o'clock direction. There was nothing there, but he said calmly to the air, Zhang Honggao. Previously, Su Yang ordered Zhang Honggao to guard the Su family manor, but Zhang Honggao did not refuse. At this moment, Zhang Honggao was hiding in the darkness without revealing his presence. The palace master can't find my whereabouts. Why has he determined my location now? Is it a guess? Zhang Honggao, who was in the dark, was full of curiosity and decided not to show up to see how the palace master would react. Zhang Honggao. Su Yang still stared at the 1 o'clock direction, slightly dissatisfied. If you don't come out, I will be angry. Palace master, calm down. Zhang Honggao appeared instantly and said with a wry smile, Palace master, you can't find me, why do you know where I am hiding this time? Haha, who said I can't find you? Su Yang showed a meaningful smile and didn't explain much. In fact, after he stepped onto the 9th level of Qi training, he could feel Zhang Honggao's presence. But before, he deliberately said that he couldn't detect it, just to test Zhang Honggao. If Zhang Honggao was perfunctory and was not in the Su family manor at this moment, then Su Yang would have to consider whether to improve Zhang Honggao's abilities next. Now it seems that Zhang Honggao obeyed his order and explained his identity as the master of the palace, and he still took it to heart, so Su Yang was quite satisfied. Zhang Honggao, I'm going out to protect the manor and Xiaoting, and activate the formation at the critical moment. At this time, Su Yang left a word and left the Su family manor. I practiced in seclusion for 6 days, and it took another day to regain my strength. I didn't contact Li Feichuan for 7 days, and I didn't know how my wife was doing. There was also little Su Zeng. I didn't know if he was causing trouble, so Su Yang planned to go and take a look. Farewell to the palace master. After seeing Su Yang off, Zhang Honggao couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, feeling relieved. Although the palace master is not old, he is really powerful. Even if I live for more than 200 years, the palace master will still give me a sense of oppression. Zhang Honggao's face was full of admiration and he said secretly, this sense of oppression does not come from strong strength, but from momentum. The palace master has the aura of a superior person, which is natural and unpredictable. The palace master deliberately told me that he couldn't detect my presence, but in fact he could. Fortunately, I did not leave the Su family manor tonight, otherwise I would have been discovered by the palace master. By then, he would have thought that I did not obey his orders and would no longer reuse me. The more Zhang Hongyao thought about it, the happier he became, and he murmured, "The palace master's thoughts are really deep." Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 298. Ha ha ha, with such a person as the palace master, why should the Medicine King Palace be unhappy? Overjoyed, Zhang Hongyao was very happy, and then disappeared, hiding in the darkness, always guarding the Su family manor. As for Xiaoting and the 49 blood slaughter members, they each performed their own duties and did not get together. About 10 minutes later, Li Chunfeng, the head of the Li family, arrived at the Su family manor. Why are there no more century-old ginkgo trees outside? Li Chunfeng strode into the manor with a face full of curiosity. Xiaoting came up to him immediately and greeted him politely, "I've met the head of the Li family." Li Chunfeng nodded, and then asked, "Why were the ginkgo trees here cut down?" This. Xiaoting naturally knew that Su Yang had removed the ginkgo tree in order to arrange the formation, but he couldn't tell the truth, so he said, "This is what the eldest young master ordered, and the younger one doesn't know it either." Su Yang. What are you doing? It's a pity to cut down a good tree. Forget it, I don't care about your Su family's affairs. Li Chunfeng muttered, and then ordered, "Take me to see Su Qianqian and Su Shenbing." Yes. Xiaoting hurriedly agreed. A few days ago, it was Li Chunfeng who appeared in time to clean up the mess in the Su Jiazhuang group. So Li Chunfeng knew what happened to the Su family, and he had come to visit several times these days. Although he and Su Qianqian often quarreled and often fought, to outsiders, they seemed very unhappy. But in fact, the friendship between Li Chunfeng and Su Qianqian is better than anyone else, and it goes beyond life and death. Nowadays, Su Qianqian's bones were shattered and he became disabled. He could only lie in bed for the rest of his life, which was extremely miserable. Li Chunfeng was worried that Su Qianqian could not think clearly and would commit suicide, so he came over from time to time in the past few days to enlighten Su Qianqian. A few minutes later, Li Chunfeng, led by Xiaoting, came to the underground secret room and strode in. Today, he brought 2 bottles of wine, intending to drink with Su Qianqian and relieve his worries. Xiaoting, on the other hand, closed the door, exited the room, and stood guard outside. As soon as Li Chunfeng came in, he saw Su Qianqian lying on the bed with a sad face and seemed very unhappy. "Father, victory or defeat is a common thing for soldiers. Don't take it too seriously. The cycle of heaven and the reciprocation of cause and effect are all destined." Su Shenbing, who was lying on the other bed, comforted. "Hey, I know everything you said, but I just can't figure it out. Why? Su Qianqian was quite excited and said through gritted teeth, looking extremely angry. "Father." Su Shenbing was continuing to comfort him. At this time, Li Chunfeng came in with 2 bottles of wine and said with a smile, "Brother Su, can you be steady? What the divine soldier said just now is right. Victory or defeat is a common thing for military officers. Don't take it too seriously. Isn't it just that you were defeated and ended up like this? Although it is quite miserable, at least you saved a life." Li Chunfeng then comforted him, "You have to think about the good in everything, right? Look at Su Yang, isn't he pretty good now? Don't always think about unhappy things." When Su Qianqian heard this, he glanced at Li Chunfeng, as if he didn't want to talk to Li Chunfeng. "Fuck, Su Baimao, you." When Li Chunfeng saw Su Qianqian like this, he was about to get angry, but when he thought about Su Qianqian's current situation, he suppressed it. Immediately afterwards, Li Chunfeng raised the bottle of wine in his hand and said with a smile, "Brother Su, look what I brought you. 20-year-old privately brewed Daiqu. The wine tastes mellow. After drinking it, your lips and teeth will be fragrant. Let's drink it tonight, Ichiban." Not interested in. Sukyankin seemed to have lost his soul. He turned his head and looked to the other side glumly. Damn it, Subai Mao, are you out of your mind? When did you change your gender? When you see such a good wine, you actually say you are not interested. Li Chunfeng couldn't help it anymore and asked. Uncle Li. Seeing this, Su Shenbing next to him smiled bitterly and said, my father is in a bad mood, please don't bother him. I came yesterday and he was fine. He was talking and laughing with me. Why is he in a bad mood this time? Li Chunfeng asked doubtfully, did you provoke him? No, you are more prudent in handling things. It must not be you, is it Su Yang? Neither. Su Shenbing shook his head, and then continued, the person who offended my father was the judge. Judge? Li Chunfeng looked surprised, what kind of judge? Is he a super expert from which family? No. Su Shenbing was a little embarrassed and hesitated to speak, but seeing how much Li Chunfeng cared about his father, he whispered, he is a judge of the Victoria's Secret Talent competition. A contestant my father liked was eliminated by the judges at the draft. Su Shenbing continued, he hasn't eaten since this morning. I told him that victory or defeat is a common thing in military affairs, but he just couldn't think about it. Li Chunfeng had a question mark on his head. Victoria's Secret Talent Show? Just a show where a bunch of women walk around in bikinis. Worry. After reacting, Li Chunfeng's face darkened instantly, the corners of his mouth twitched a few times, and he shouted, Subai Mao, you are so depraved. You used to hate things like that, but I didn't expect you to. Hey, the worst thing is that I can't keep you in this world. Zuyan Sijing Huasisu. You will not be able to survive until the end. Li Chunfeng said angrily, what's so good about that kind of program? Wearing so little clothes and posing so much is not embarrassing, it's just ridiculous. I have always despised those who watch this kind of program. I think they are perverts and trash. Li Chunfeng pointed at Sukyankin and became angry, you are even more outrageous. Because your favorite player was eliminated, you didn't eat for a day. It really refreshed my horizons. Sukyankin, you disappoint me so much. How could I know someone like you? Snort. Li Chunfeng snorted coldly, saying that he had scolded enough and was about to turn around and leave. But at this time, Su Shenbing turned on the LCD TV, and the replay of the talent show instantly played on the screen. Various beauties with fair skin and long legs were walking around, and they were so beautiful. Li Chunfeng's gaze was immediately attracted, and he stared straight at the LCD screen without moving for an instant. Uncle Li, my father watches this show. He likes number 13 the most. It's a pity that number 13 was eliminated from the game last night, Su Shenbing said in a low voice. Shady story? Damn it, there is definitely something shady about this talent show. When Li Chunfeng heard this, he kept his eyes from the screen and gritted his teeth and said, number 13 is obviously so perfect, with a perfect figure and face, no one in a million, why should he be eliminated? Damn the judges, are they blind? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 299. Brother Li. When Sukyankin heard this, he seemed to come to life again, and said in agreement, my dear friend, I think so too, there must be something shady about this show. However, apart from number 13, number 24 is also pretty good. Although it is slightly worse than number 13, it is still pretty good overall, Sukyankin said. Number 24? Which issue has it? I don't seem to see the 24th in this issue, Li Chunfeng asked doubtfully. I was eliminated before. The judges are all blind. Sukyankin seemed to have opened up a chatterbox and ordered, Shenbing, let your Uncle Li find those episodes with the number 24, so that your Uncle Li can enjoy it? Yes. Su Shenbing smiled bitterly and had to use his fingers to switch frequently. Next, the excited discussion of the two old men came from the underground secret room. At the same time, Su Yang took advantage of the darkness and came to the riverside villa alone. He did not call Li Feixuan, preparing to give his wife a surprise. But when Su Yang came to the riverside villa, he found that there was no one in the villa, and the little Suzing was not there either. Su Yang frowned slightly and was about to call Li Feixuan, but then he suddenly noticed that two people were walking towards the villa. One of them is Li Feixuan. As for the other person's aura, Su Yang only felt that he had some impression, but he was not familiar with it. Then Su Yang turned around and was about to greet her, and soon saw Li Feixuan. But the next moment, the expression on Su Yang's face froze. Because there was a man in a suit and leather shoes standing next to Li Feixuan. Although this person's back was to Su Yang, he was dressed and looked like a man. The key is that this guy's hands were placed on Li Feixuan's slender waist. What was even more outrageous was that instead of resisting, Li Feixuan snuggled into this guy's arms. The two of them stood quietly like this, looking very much like each other under the moonlight. A pair of lovers. Su Yang. At this moment, Su Yang's face turned dark instantly, no, turned green instantly. He couldn't bear it anymore, so he rushed out, grabbed the guy in a suit and ties, and planned to beat him up. I'm a bitch, if you steal my wife, I'll kill you. Su Yang was furious, but when the other party turned around, Su Yang was stunned and asked doubtfully, Pai Daxing. Su Yang. This man in a suit and leather shoes is none other than Zhang Yuge. At this moment, Zhang Yuge paused, turned to push Su Yang away, gritted his teeth and said, You are the star of Pai, my name is Zhang Yuge, Zhang Yuge. Aha! Su Yang scratched the back of his head, and the atmosphere was slightly awkward. At this time, Li Feixuan's eyes fell on Su Yang, and she smiled in surprise, Su Yang, your work is done. Su Yang nodded, then came over and took Li Feixuan's hand, and asked at the same time, Honey, what's going on? Why is this Patrick wearing men's clothes? And what did you do just now? Why are you so close? I misunderstood you and thought you were looking for a man behind my back, Su Yang said resentfully. Ha ha. Concubine Li smiled, smoothed her hair in front of her forehead, and explained, Pai Daxing studied film and television production. She wanted me to make a short film with her, and then she would process it and use it as her own material. Here, look, the camera is over there. As she said that, Concubine Li pointed to the side. There was indeed a machine there, with red lights flashing. Su Yang was too anxious to notice it before. Yo! Su Yang suddenly realized it, and then smiled and said, I didn't expect Pai Daxing to have this skill. It's not bad. Of course, Pai Daxing has very good grades in his professional courses and has participated in the production of several movies, Li Feixuan added. Ah! At this time, Zhang Yuge couldn't stand it any longer and shouted, That's enough for you. I'll say it one last time. My name is Zhang Yuge, not Pai Daxing. Okay, Pai Daxing, I understand. Su Yang nodded and smiled. I can't be bothered to talk to you. Zhang Yu was so angry that he almost cursed. He glanced at Su Yang with an unhappy face, and then said, Feixuan, the material is almost done. Thank you for your help today. I will treat you to dinner another day. Yeah. Li Feixuan smiled softly, and then said, Pai, Zhang Yuge, in fact, Su Yang is just joking with you, don't take it to heart. Okay, I know. Although he said this, Zhang Yuge glared at Su Yang fiercely, and then drove away from the riverside villa with the camera on his shoulder. Su Yang. After Zhang Yuge left, Li Feixuan looked at Su Yang and said, Next time, don't call him the star of the Gag school. She doesn't like to hear it? All right. Su Yang touched the bridge of his nose, then smiled and said, but my wife, you also called Patrick twice just now. I, I was led astray by you. Concubine Li Xian blushed and looked particularly shy. Ha ha. Seeing this, Su Yang hugged Li Feixuan directly, hugged her tightly, and smiled softly. Honey, do you know that you are very beautiful the way you are now? I really want to make love with you. Order something. What to do? Concubine Li Xuanyu asked with a blushing face. Make love. Su Yang whispered. Ah. Li Feixuan screamed immediately, and then complained shyly, Su Yang, you are so vulgar. I didn't expect you to say such things. You are shameless. Ahem. Su Yang coughed dryly and then said, honey, can you just listen to what I have to say? I mean, making love, food, I want to cook with you, we are in the kitchen together, you help me roll up my sleeves, I help you tie your apron, how beautiful and romantic. That's it? Li Feixuan suddenly realized it, her expression was cute, and then she said apologetically, I'm sorry, Su Yang, I wrongly blamed you. You are not vulgar at all, blame me. As concubine Li Xianzhen was speaking, she saw a smirk rising from the corner of Su Yang's mouth. She immediately realized that she had been tricked and gritted her teeth and said, no, Su Yang, you are teasing me again. What you just said is what you did. Su Yang grabbed Li Feixuan's arm, pressed her against the wall forcefully, and said with a playful smile, what are you doing? Humph, I don't want to say such dirty words, Li Feixuan turned her head proudly. The moonlight poured down like water, falling on Li Feixuan's body and passing through her hair. Around the villa, there is a large green area, with various flowers, plants, and insects complementing each other. At this time, Li Feixuan's face was flushed, full of shyness, and exuded the scent of a girl. Gilug. In this situation, Su Yang could not hold back and kissed his wife directly on the face. Urban Super Dude. Author, Eagle in the Desert. Chapter 300. The night is slightly cool. Su Yang hugged Li Feixuan and behaved very intimately. Both of them had sweet smiles on their faces, and even the air seemed to become sweeter. Su Yang, what have you been doing these days, and why didn't you let me go to the Su family manor to find you? Suddenly, Li Feixuan asked softly. Su Yang responded gently, the Su family has encountered some troubles. Someone is eyeing the manor, but don't worry, I have taken care of those nasty people. Li Feixuan nodded obediently, and then the little bird leaned against Su Yang's chest. Su Yang held Li Feixuan's waist, ran his other hand through her long hair, and smiled softly, honey, you haven't missed me these days. Yeah, Li Feixuan nodded shyly, her beautiful face flushed. Bah! Su Yang lowered his head and kissed Li Feixuan, then raised the corner of his mouth and said, honey, a spring night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold, why not tonight we, he. Don't want. Li Feixuan refused in a low voice and said instead, just a few days. My grandfather said before that we will be married in a few days. I will give you the most precious thing by then. What, marriage, why is it so sudden? Su Yang was slightly surprised. My grandfather knows everything that happened in your family. Now Grandpa Su and Uncle Su. At this point, Li Feixuan did not continue, for fear that Su Yang would be sad, but continued, my grandfather said that our Li family and the Su family have always had a good relationship and cannot add insult to injury. Now that something big has happened to the Su family, our Li family must show some attitude, so they want us to get married as soon as possible to wash away the grief in the hearts of Grandpa Su and Uncle Su. Li Feixuan continued, also, if we get married, we can legitimately take care of Grandpa Su and Uncle Su in the future. So that's it? Su Yang smiled bitterly and said, but this is too sudden. I'm not mentally prepared yet. Su Yang. After concubine Li heard this, she pushed Su Yang away and said coldly, "What do you mean, you don't want to?" "No." Su Yang hurriedly took Li Feixuan's hand and explained, "Honey, how could I not want to? I'm really looking forward to getting married tonight. It just felt sudden, but now it's fine. I'm ready and can follow you at any time you have a wedding." "That's pretty much it." Concubine Li Xian rolled her eyes at Su Yang, and then said, "Be more steady in the future and stop being so out of tune. When you start a family and start a career, you will have responsibilities and burdens." "Yeah." Su Yang smiled softly, and then wanted to hug Li Feixuan, intending to be tired of it again. However, Li Feixuan suggested, "Su Yang, the night is quite beautiful today. Can you accompany me for a night run for a while?" "No problem at all." Su Yang agreed with a smile. Immediately afterwards, the two of them ran slowly side by side on the path in the villa area. "The moonlight is like water, and the breeze is with me, so comfortable." "En route?" Su Yang asked while running, "Honey, that little brat Suzing, are you honest these days?" "Okay." Li Fei, after a phone call, "I heard from Kikai that he was quite well behaved, so I didn't ask him carefully." "Kikai?" Su Yang frowned slightly and said, "That boy is very arrogant. Kikai probably can't control him." "No, I have to tie him to me tomorrow." "Haha, Su Yang, Zinc is not as miserable as you said, huh?" Li Feixuan was running and talking, her breathing was a little short, and she gasped and asked, "By the way, Su Yang, have you found out the origin of Zeng?" "I sent someone to check, but there's no news yet." "If I have time, I'll go check it out," Su Yang said. Let's stop talking. Running is very tiring. Phew, if we talk any more, I will be starved of oxygen." Li Feixuan was fragrant and dripping with sweat, and her breathing was rapid. She smiled and said no more. Su Yang was fine. Even if he ran for 10 days and 10 nights, let alone running this short distance, he wouldn't feel tired. At this moment, Su Yang was running while admiring Li Feixuan, who was running. At this time, Li Feixuan was sweating profusely, her clothes were almost soaked, her forehead was covered with sweat beads, and her jade face was slightly red, which made people imagine. The most attractive thing is that she took off her coat and wore a white tights underneath. Her exquisite figure was clearly visible, especially when she was running, it was a feast for the eyes. Li Feixuan took out her mobile phone while running. After seeing the caller ID, she wondered, "Ching Dai. Why is she calling me?" "Oh, then you guys talk slowly, I'm going to speed up at this moment," Su Yang said, feeling that listening to a girl's whispers was not fair, so he distanced himself from Li Feixuan. "Right? Okay, by the way, this is my first time here. This road is a bit narrow, so be careful." On the other side of the phone. At this time, Su Yang asked curiously, "Feixuan, who called?" Hua Qingdai was stunned when she heard Su Yang's voice coming from the phone. "I know. In fact, after passing this entrance, it is not narrow anymore. The road inside is quite wide. Let's speed up after passing this entrance." "Okay, I'm very fast. Hey, wife, you have to keep up. And you're still breathing heavily?" Hua Qingdai's face turned red. She guessed that Su Yang and Li Feixuan must be doing something embarrassing. In the middle of the night, a man and a woman alone, making firewood and running? Who wants to believe it? On the other side of the phone, Hua Qingdai suggested, "In this way, the purpose of our promotion will be achieved, huh?" "Feixuan, what are you doing and why are you breathing heavily?" At this moment, she froze on the spot, her eyes filled with astonishment. "Running. I'm running," Li Feixuan said intermittently with rapid breathing. She was really lacking in oxygen. "That's right. Running." On the other side, a beeping sound came from Hua Qingdai's ear, and Li Feixuan had hung up. What a liar! Dong 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 dong. Then I'm scared too. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's no one on the road. Toot toot. Just when Su Yang was admiring his wife, Li Feixuan's cell phone suddenly rang. Ah, no, I'm scared. Yes, it's Qingdai. Feixuan and Su Yang are together? As concubine Li Xianzhen was talking, Su Yang had already run away, so she spoke to her mobile phone, Qingdai, I won't talk to you for now, hang up. Su Yang, ah, I hurt so much, I'm bleeding. I understand, Qingdai, don't worry, there will be no danger, Li Feixuan said intermittently. After talking to herself, Li Feixuan swiped to answer, and then asked curiously, Qingdai, are you okay with coming to me so late? Hua Qingdai said doubtfully, it's so late, why are you running? It's so dangerous outside. Concubine Xian, you are so beautiful. Don't run at night. Go home quickly. Well, Feixuan, aren't we going to promote classical dance together? I plan to apply for a Douyin account and post short dancing videos on it. Many people will definitely pay attention. No, please slow down. I haven't exercised for a long time. If you go too fast, my body will fall apart tomorrow.